Imagine waking up, right? It's a Tuesday morning. You walk into your living room with your coffee and you realize your lush, perfectly green backyard is slowly seeping raw sewage straight into your house.
Yeah, that is literally a homeowner's absolute worst nightmare. Just a complete disaster.
It really is. So today, we are taking a deep dive into an incredibly unglamorous but financially terrifying topic. We're looking at your septic system.
Right, the hidden ecosystem right in your backyard.
Exactly. We've got a stack of articles and notes here, and the mission today is to give you a shortcut to understanding the specific biological machinery beneath your lawn so you don't end up dealing with soggy yards or, sewage odors or temporary relocation expenses.
Because it's not just a pipe in the ground, it's a whole complex environment down there.
Okay, let's unpack this because I think most of us just flush and forget, but there is an entire hidden ecosystem operating like a few feet below the grass.
There really is. I mean, it is essentially a microscopic farming operation. You are managing a massive bioreactor buried underground.
A bioreactor. That sounds way more intense than just a septic tank.
Well, it is. And to understand the spectacular ways this bioreactor can just completely crash, we have to look past the concrete box itself. We need to examine the specific gravitational and biological sorting mechanisms happening inside.
Right, because we all know the basic layout, I think. The main line comes in from the house, the tank holds the waste, and an outlet pipe leads out to the drain field or the leach field.
Yeah, the basics are simple.
But the magic, or I guess the disaster, really happens during the stratification process inside the tank itself. I like to think of it as a giant mechanical stomach for the house.
Oh, I like that analogy.
Yeah, like it digests organic waste, but if it gets indigestion, the whole house is going to feel it.
Exactly. And what's fascinating here is how gravity and biology collaborate to make that digestion happen. When wastewater enters that tank, it encounters a strictly anaerobic environment.
Meaning there's absolutely no oxygen in there.
Right, zero oxygen. The bacteria operating inside survive entirely without it. And because the liquid moves through the tank so slowly, the environment is, well, it's exceptionally calm.
Which is necessary, right, for the sorting.
It's vital. This calm allows for strict physical separation. The dense organic solids, they sink to the bottom to form the sludge layer.
Okay, heavy stuff sinks. Makes sense.
Right, and then the lighter materials, particularly the lipids, so we're talking fats, oils, greases, they rise to the top to form the scum layer.
Which leaves a middle layer, right? A layer of relatively clear liquid.
Yep, known as effluent. And that effluent is what actually flows out of the tank and into the leach field.
Got it. And the anaerobic bacteria, the actual workforce of this stomach, they live primarily down in that bottom sludge layer, right?
They do. They're constantly feeding on the organic solids down there, breaking complex compounds down into simpler liquids and gases. They're continuously stripping away organic material so the tank doesn't just fill up immediately.
So they're the unsung heroes of the backyard.
Oh, absolutely. It is a highly calibrated biological engine. But, an engine is only as robust as its operating conditions.
Right.
So when we introduce variables that disrupt either that physical stratification we just talked about or the bacterial workforce itself, the entire bioreactor crashes.
Okay, so let's look at what actually triggers those crashes. Let's get into the deadly sins of septic failure. I know a major point of failure we read about is thermal.
Yes, thermal failure is huge, especially from the kitchen.
Like hot kitchen grease poured down the sink. I mean, it seems liquid enough when you pour it, right?
Sure, it's a liquid when it leaves the pan, but that underground tank operates at a consistent soil temperature. It's usually around 50 to 60 degrees Fahrenheit down there.
Oh, wow. So it's basically like pouring grease into a cold swimming pool.
Exactly. That sudden temperature drop is an immediate catalyst for a process called saponification.
Saponification.
Yeah, the liquid fats hit that cool environment and solidify almost instantly. And over time, these hardened lipids amalgamate. They bind together into this thick, impenetrable raft at the very top of the tank.
Oh, so you're essentially creating a suffocating lid over the entire operation.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. A lid. It traps gases, it severely restricts the available volume of the tank, and it coats the baffles and outlet pipes in this hydrophobic layer.
Meaning water literally can't penetrate it.
Right. It physically reduces the space the tank has to separate the new waste coming in.
That's horrifying. But wait, so grease builds a wall from the top down?
Yeah.
But based on the sources, modern consumer habits are building an indestructible matrix from the bottom up too.
Yes, and we see this most aggressively with synthetic materials, things people flush without thinking twice.
Okay, I actually want to pause and push back on this a bit because there is so much marketing around some of these materials, specifically wet wipes.
Oh, the wet wipes.
Right. They are prominently labeled as flushable in big letters. So if a consumer product is legally allowed to be packaged as flushable, shouldn't our biological engine be able to handle it?
You would think so, right? But here's the trick. Flushable is a hydraulic term. It is not a biological one.
Wait, what does that mean?
It simply means the wipe is physically small enough to clear the curved trap of your toilet and travel down the main pipe without causing an immediate localized clog in your bathroom.
Oh, you've got to be kidding me.
No, seriously. It has absolutely nothing to do with biodegradability.
That feels incredibly misleading because traditional toilet paper breaks down so easily.
Right, because toilet paper is made of short-chain cellulose fibers. The moment water hits it, the structural integrity dissolves via hydrolysis.
So it basically turns into organic mush before it even reaches the septic tank.
Exactly. It's pre-digested, almost. But those flushable wipes, they are woven with synthetic polymers, like plastics. Yeah, we are talking about polyester, polypropylene, or highly durable regenerated cellulose. So when these hit the anaerobic environment of the septic tank, the bacteria simply lack the enzymes to digest them.
Because bacteria don't eat plastic.
Right, they do not break down at all. Instead, they sink into that bottom sludge layer, and they act like rebar in concrete.
Rebar in concrete, wow.
Yeah, they tangle with the solid waste, creating these massive reinforced blockages. And the worst part is, those reinforced blockages cannot be pumped out with standard vacuum hoses when you get your tank serviced.
Because it's literally tied together. So you are feeding synthetic plastics into a biological stomach. It's no wonder the system shuts down.
It's a recipe for disaster.
But it's not just what we put in the tank, is it? It's also the velocity at which we do it. The hydraulic overload.
Yes, hydraulic overload is massive. Remember, that stratification process, the sludge sinking, the scum floating it, requires a calm, stagnant environment.
Right, you said it moves very slowly.
Exactly. So picture a typical weekend. A household runs a high-efficiency washing machine for like 6 back-to-back loads on a Sunday.
While somebody is simultaneously running the dishwasher and someone else is taking a long shower?
Exactly. When you do that, you are introducing massive hydraulic turbulence. You destroy the hydraulic retention time.
Retention time meaning how long the water actually stays in the tank.
Right. A healthy tank holds wastewater for roughly 24 to 48 hours to allow the solids to sink and the fats to float. When you blast hundreds of gallons of water through the system in a single afternoon, you violently churn the tank.
Like shaking a snow globe.
Yes. The sludge at the bottom and the grease at the top get whipped into a microscopic frenzy. They mix directly into that clear, effluent layer in the middle.
And since that middle layer is actively flowing out into your drain field,
You end up pushing suspended solids and greases straight into the porous pipes of the leach field. And that, right there, is where catastrophic failure begins.
because the drain field isn't just a drip hose in the dirt, it relies on a delicate soil matrix to filter the effluent.
Right? The soil itself does a lot of the work.
So when those suspended solids from the churn hit that soil, they clog the microscopic pores. And according to the notes, the native soil bacteria go into overdrive, right?
Yes, they do. They start secreting a thick, slimy polysaccharide layer. We call it a biomat.
Or the biomat. Okay.
And look, a thin biomat is totally normal. It helps filter pathogens. But when it's overwhelmed with solid waste from all that hydraulic churn, that biomat becomes thick and completely impermeable.
Meaning nothing gets through.
Nothing. The soil loses all its porosity. The water can no longer drain downward, so hydrostatic pressure forces it in the only available direction.
Which is either back up the pipe into the house or straight up to the surface of your yard.
Exactly.
We're going to get to the visual indicators of that surface failure in just a minute. But there is one more critical threat to the bioreactor that originates inside the house, isn't there?
There is.
The chemicals. We are actively poisoning our own workforce.
We really are. The anaerobic bacteria inside the tank rely on a very delicate pH balance and specific cellular integrity to survive.
So what happens when we pour harsh household chemicals down the drain? I mean, bleach, ammonia, paint thinners.
Or heavy-duty antibacterial solvents. When we use those, we are introducing agents that are specifically designed to rupture cellular walls.
Right, because that's how they clean our counters.
Yeah,
But then they go down the sink.
exactly. Take quaternary ammonium compounds, for instance. They are the active ingredients in almost all commercial antibacterial surface cleaners.
Okay.
They literally lyse or burst open the phospholipid bilayers of the bacteria
Wow. So when you rinse a heavily treated sponge down the sink, it travels straight to the tank.
and triggers a microscopic extinction event.
An extinction event in your tank. That is brutal.
It is. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, you severely depress the biological degradation rate.
Because there's no bacteria left to eat the waste.
Right. With the workforce wiped out, that sludge layer accumulates at an exponential rate. The tank fills with solid waste months or even years earlier than its engineered capacity.
So if you combine a chemically sterilized tank with a grease-capped surface and a leach field plugged with synthetic polymers from those wipes,
The system is effectively a ticking time bomb.
unbelievable. But thankfully, this failure mechanism does give off very distinct biological and physical markers before raw sewage just ends up in your bathtub, right?
Yes, it does. And decoding those markers early is the difference between a minor maintenance call and a total property excavation.
So let's talk about early warning signs. What happens inside the home first?
Inside, the most common early biomarker is actually a change in air pressure within the plumbing system.
Air pressure. How does that show up?
It manifests as a gurgling sound in the toilet when you drain a sink or a tub.
Oh, I've heard that before. Like a glug-glug sound.
Exactly. As the tank overfills or the outlet pipe begins to restrict from that biomat we talked about, the displaced air from the incoming water can't vent properly out of the tank.
So the air has to go somewhere.
Right, it gets forced backward, pushing right up through the water seal in the toilet trap.
Okay, so that gurgling pressure differential is a massive red flag.
Huge red flag. And it's often accompanied by a distinct hydrogen sulfide odor.
That classic rotten egg smell.
Yep, permeating the lower levels of the house. Because the anaerobic bacteria process sulfur compounds, a healthy system will vent these gases outside. But when they back up into your living room...
The hydraulic pressure has completely reversed. The stomach is backing up.
Exactly.
Okay, so moving outside, the indicators are highly visual and, honestly, highly ironic based on our source material. I want to ask about this because it's so strange. The most glaring sign of imminent catastrophic failure is having a patch of exceptionally lush, vibrant, dark green grass.
Yes, directly over the drain field.
Why is having a thriving green lawn suddenly a red flag?
It's all about nutrients. Grass thrives on nitrogen and phosphorus, right?
Right, that's what's in normal fertilizer.
Well, wastewater effluent is hyperloaded with both of those. So when that slimy biomat becomes impermeable and hydrostatic pressure forces the effluent upward.
It floods the shallow root zone of the grass before it ever actually breaches the surface of the soil.
Precisely. You are essentially hyperdosing your lawn with a liquid fertilizer concentrate.
Wow. So that perfectly manicured emerald green rectangle right in the middle of a dormant August lawn.
Yeah.
It isn't a landscaping triumph at all.
No, not at all. It is raw, unfiltered, organic, waste pooling, just inches below your bare feet.
That is disgusting. And ignoring that green grass leads to massive costs, right?
The structural costs are staggering. If you let it go, you are looking at the excavation of the entire yard.
Like backhoes and bulldozers.
Oh, yeah. Removal of all the contaminated topsoil, complete replacement of the PVC piping and the gravel matrices.
Plus the interior remediation of any sewage that actually breached your foundation.
Exactly. We're talking tens of thousands of dollars.
Which brings us to the trending solution in the home improvement space right now. Because replacing a ruined drain field is so expensive, the property management industry has aggressively pivoted toward preventative biochemistry.
Yes. Stopping it before it breaks.
Right. And this is precisely why treatments like SEPTIFIX have suddenly dominated the conversation on all the maintenance podcasts. We are shifting from treating the physical symptom to actively managing the biological ecosystem.
It's a huge shift in mindset. And to understand why this specific intervention, SEPTIFIX, is trending, you have to look at the biochemical shift it actually triggers within the tank.
Okay, break that down for us, because we established that these tanks operate as strictly anaerobic environments, right? No oxygen.
Right. And anaerobic bacteria are effective, but they are incredibly slow. And their byproduct is that foul hydrogen sulfide gas, the rotten egg smell.
So what does the SEPTIFIX tablet actually do?
The core mechanism of the tablet is an engineered chemical reaction. Once you flush it, it releases concentrated oxygen directly into the wastewater.
Oxygen. But I thought we said the tank was anaerobic.
It is, and that's the genius of it. It introduces a massive influx of oxygen alongside highly resilient bacterial strains. By doing that in a formerly oxygen-depleted environment, you temporarily alter the entire ecosystem.
Okay, so you cultivate and support aerobic bacteria instead.
Exactly. Anaerobic digestion with oxygen is exponentially faster than anaerobic digestion.
Oh, wow. So the aerobic bacteria can just tear through the complex organic polymers and that solid sludge at an accelerated rate?
Incredibly fast. Furthermore, the byproduct of aerobic digestion isn't hydrogen sulfide, it's carbon dioxide.
Which is completely odorless.
Right, virtually eliminating the noxious sulfur smells in the yard and in the house.
So you're accelerating the biological degradation rate, keeping the sludge layer thin, and preventing those suspended solids from escaping into the leach field.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it also incorporates pH buffers to counteract those acidic environments created by the household detergents we talked about earlier.
To make sure the bacterial workforce is operating at maximum efficiency. Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, though.
Okay,
I have to play devil's advocate for a second.
go for it.
We're talking a lot about biology, but plumbing is ultimately architecture, right? It's pipes in the dirt.
Yes, it is.
And the underground environment is hostile. You've got tree roots seeking moisture gradients, and they can exert enough pressure to easily crush standard PVC pipes.
Easily. Roots are relentless.
So if a root system has fractured your main line, or if heavy machinery has physically compacted the soil over your drain field,
Yeah.
can a simple oxygenating bacterial tablet do anything to save you?
That is the critical distinction every single homeowner must make, and the answer is absolutely not.
Okay, so it's not a magic bullet.
No magic bullets here. A biochemical intervention manages the ecosystem. It cannot repair structural architecture. A burst of aerobic bacteria cannot dissolve a thick oak root. It cannot re-expand crushed soil pores.
So it optimizes the bioreactor, but if the reactor itself is literally cracked in half, no amount of oxygen is going to put it back together.
Precisely. The trend toward products like SEPTIFIX is about maintaining the biological health of the system to prevent the organic failures.
The sludge overflows, the biomat impermeability, the grease capping.
Exactly. It is a biological maintenance tool. It's designed to work in tandem with physical maintenance.
Like routine professional pumping and inspections.
Right, and protecting the physical footprint of the drain field from heavy loads, like not parking your truck on the lawn.
Okay, so synthesizing everything we've uncovered today, the major takeaway for you, the listener, is that catastrophic septic failure is rarely a sudden overnight event.
No, it takes time.
It is a slow, methodical sabotage of a very delicate, microscopic environment. And you manage this ecosystem through careful inputs.
Exactly. You protect the hydraulic retention time by spacing out your water usage. Don't do all the laundry on Sunday.
Right. And you keep synthetic polymer fibers, those flushable wipes, completely out of the system.
Yep. And actively curate the bacterial workforce by minimizing cellular toxins like bleach and utilizing aerobic stimulators when needed. You know, all of this raises an important question, though, and something worth thinking deeply about.
What's that?
Consider the overarching paradox of modern home maintenance. We spend exorbitant amounts of money and effort deploying harsh antibacterial solvents to ensure our living spaces are immaculately, perfectly sterile.
We want everything to shine and smell like lemons.
Right. But in our pursuit of total surface sterilization, we are chemically eradicating the vital biological workforce our homes actually rely on to safely process our waste.
Oh, wow.
It forces you to wonder, is our cultural obsession with absolute sterility ultimately the very mechanism that is destroying our home's natural, necessary ecosystem?
That is a brilliant contradiction to leave off on. Are we literally scrubbing ourselves straight into an ecological and financial disaster?
It's a real possibility.
Definitely something for you to ponder the next time you reach for that bottle of heavy-duty bleach under the sink. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been great.
We hope you walk away equipped to manage that hidden bioreactor in your backyard with the biochemical respect it demands. Keep questioning, keep learning, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.